Pain had not meant to kill Naruto Uzumaki. The black receiver was supposed to pin him to the broken street. It only needed to hold him long enough for the 9 tails to be taken. Pain aimed for Naruto's upper shoulder. Naruto saw Hinata still lying behind him, barely conscious. 2 wounded villagers tried to drag her away from the battlefield. He dropped his weight and turned across her line. He shoved one of the villagers down just as Pain released the weapon. The change in Naruto's height and angle turned a disabling strike into a fatal one. The receiver entered his chest, just left of center, punched through muscle and bone, and tore across his heart. His legs gave out. The noise of ruined Konoha stretched into a dull hum. Pain's face blurred above him. Naruto tried to pull air into his lungs and got only a wet rattle. Then, Kurama's presence vanished from his senses. For the first time since the day Naruto was born, there was nothing inside him. Kurama felt it too. The vast fox had spent years hating the boy who carried his cage. He had mocked Naruto, tempted him, fought him for control, and waited for the seal to fail. Yet, when Naruto's consciousness disappeared, the prison did not feel like freedom. It felt like a room whose floor had suddenly dropped away. Naruto opened his eyes somewhere else, in a place with no visible sky and no solid ground he could properly see. A dim red haze hung around him, and far ahead stood the shape of something enormous. Long white hair floated around a skull-like face. A blade rested between its teeth. Empty eyes watched him with the patience of something that had watched people die for longer than nations had existed. Naruto did not know the figure from study. He knew it through the trace his father had left inside the seal. Only minutes earlier, Minato's chakra had risen inside Naruto and repaired the damage caused by the 9 tails. A colder echo had clung to that chakra for a moment, something ancient that had never belonged to Minato himself. Now Naruto stood in front of the source of that echo. The remnant of his father's chakra still clung to his soul, and the Shinigami had noticed when that soul crossed the boundary of death. The Shinigami raised one hand. Naruto tried to speak, but no sound came out. Fingers larger than his body closed around his soul. There was a flash of cold, so deep that it felt hotter than fire. A mark burned into the center of his chest, not on his skin, but somewhere beneath it. The same force that marked him pulled his soul back toward the body it had just left. For those brief moments, death had not been allowed to finish its work. The seal holding Kurama had strained toward collapse when Naruto's life stopped, but his soul never traveled far enough for the bond to break completely. When the Shinigami drove him back across the boundary, his torn heart was dragged into a barely viable state with him. It was not a healing technique Naruto could call on again. It was part of the single act of returning him to life. The ruined village came back all at once. Naruto's body jerked against the ground. Air tore into his lungs. His heart gave a painful, uneven beat, then another. The receiver was still through his chest, and pain was staring down at him. Naruto wrapped both hands around the black rod and ripped it free. Blood ran down the front of his jacket. Kurama's chakra surged through the damaged tissue and closed what the return had left unfinished. The wound still felt as if a burning fist had been driven through his ribs, but his heart kept beating. Naruto could barely stand, and for the next few seconds, standing was enough. Inside him, Kurama slammed both paws against the bars. Naruto heard the fox demand an explanation, but he had none. He only knew that he had died and that something had followed him back. Pain recovered first. He extended a hand and used Shinra Tensei. The blast hit Naruto before his feet were planted. He flew across the street, crashed through the remains of a wall, and rolled into a courtyard filled with broken roof tiles. Pain flared through his chest as Naruto pushed himself up anyway. Pain was weaker than he had been earlier. Every major technique had drained him, and the destruction of Konoha had cost Nagato more chakra than Naruto could guess. Even so, the Deva path still moved with perfect control. It approached through the dust, black receivers already forming between its fingers. A roar rose from the other side of the courtyard. One of Pain's summoned beasts, a giant centipede covered in black receiver studs, crawled out from beneath a collapsed building. It had survived the earlier fighting and now lunged toward the injured villagers trying to escape. Naruto made 2 shadow clones. The first clone caught the beast's jaw with both hands and was dragged backward through the dirt. The second ran up the creature's side, leaped from one of its armored plates, and drove a Rasengan down through the base of its skull. The centipede convulsed, and Naruto felt the exact instant its life ended. A thin stream of pale energy pulled away from the dying creature and sank into the mark inside his chest. Naruto froze for half a heartbeat as the chakra already moving through his coils became denser, as if the same volume suddenly carried more weight. The change was subtler than a new technique or a huge increase in reserves, but it was unmistakable. The clone holding the beast's jaw became firmer beneath his control. The Rasengan in the second clone's hand gave off a deeper vibration before both clones vanished. Pain attacked again. Naruto ducked under a black receiver, caught Pain's wrist, and felt the difference immediately in the harder grip and cleaner movement. The improvement was small, but it was real. He drove a knee into Pain's stomach, forced the body backward, then sent a clone around the side. Pain used Shinra Tensei and blew both away. Naruto counted the interval in his head, rushed the moment the force faded, and smashed a Rasengan into the Devapath's chest. The corpse hit the ground and stopped moving, but the mark gave Naruto nothing. The difference was obvious. The summoned creature had fed the mark, while Pain's body had not. Naruto remembered what Jiraiya had discovered: the black receivers, the shared vision, and the warning that the real one was not among them. A dead body could not give up a living soul. Naruto closed his hand around one of the receivers and pressed it into his palm. The Sage mode he had used against Pain had not completely burned away yet, and he spent what remained of it on the one thing that mattered. His senses followed the foreign chakra through the rod, across the ruins, beyond the crater, and toward the forest outside the village. The real Pain was still alive. Naruto looked back toward Hinata. Sakura had reached her by then, and was already working to stop the bleeding. Naruto wanted to go to them. His legs nearly turned that way on their own. Then he looked at the ruined village. If the man controlling Pain could still fight, this was not over. Naruto left 2 clones behind to help the wounded and ran. The forest beyond Konoha was unnaturally quiet. Birds had scattered during the attack. Smoke from the village drifted between the trees. Naruto moved over branches in Sage mode, following the chakra signature until he found a huge paper tree standing where no such tree should have been. Konan waited inside, after seeing the Devapath stop moving through Nagato's shared vision. When Naruto entered, paper folded around her arms like blades. Nagato sat farther back in the hidden chamber. His body was thin enough to look skeletal, pinned to the strange machine that supported him. Black receivers rose from his back. Blood darkened the corner of his mouth. Naruto had expected anger. What he found was more difficult. Jiraiya had told him enough to know that Nagato had once been his student, but not enough to explain how that student had become Pain. Nagato supplied the missing pieces himself. He spoke of Yahiko, children starving in a country used as a battlefield, and Hanzo's betrayal. He also spoke of the moment a dream of peace had been replaced by the belief that only overwhelming suffering could force nations to behave. Naruto listened because Minato and Jiraiya had both trusted him to look for an answer beyond simple revenge. Dying had not erased that responsibility. It had made Naruto less willing to confuse understanding someone with allowing them to continue killing. He told Nagato what had happened in simple terms. Pain's attack had stopped his heart. The trace of Minato's sealing chakra had pulled his soul into contact with the Shinigami, and he had been returned once. Nagato did not need the Rinnegan to diagnose the impossible. Through the Devapath, he had watched Naruto's chakra disappear, watched the body lie still, and then felt it return. Nagato did not hear hope in that story. He heard proof that extraordinary power could overturn rules that ordinary people were forced to obey. Naruto answered that power did not give either of them the right to decide how much pain everyone else deserved. Before the argument could become another circle, Naruto offered a concrete end. Nagato could stop fighting, give Konoha everything he knew about Akatsuki, and leave with Konan under guard once the wounded were secure. Naruto would not execute a man who had surrendered, even after everything Pain had done. Konan urged Nagato to accept. His body was failing, the 6 paths were destroyed, and capturing the 9 tails was no longer realistic. Nagato refused because he believed surrender would prove that Yahiko's death and every life spent building Akatsuki had bought nothing. Worse, he now saw Naruto's return as a threat that could grow beyond anything the organization had planned for. If Naruto walked away with both the 9 tails and a power tied to death, Nagato believed the balance he had tried to impose on the world would disappear with him. He had spent too many lives reaching this point. He gathered chakra for one final use of the Diva Pass power through his own body. He shaped the force directly around the chamber. The paper walls tore apart. The artificial tree split from the inside. Naruto understood what he was doing. Nagato could no longer win a long battle. He was going to bring the entire structure down and use the crushing force to break Naruto's body badly enough for Konan to take him afterward. The chamber exploded outward. Naruto formed 3 clones. One pulled Konan away from a falling support, even though she had been preparing to attack him. Another drove a Rasengan into the floor to break an opening through the collapsing roots. Naruto himself rushed Nagato. A wave of repulsive force caught him in the chest. He flew backward and slammed into a wall of compressed paper. Konan turned that wall into hundreds of cutting sheets. Naruto crossed his arms and took the first wave, then replaced himself with a clone an instant before the second tore through him. The real Naruto emerged above Nagato. Nagato lifted one hand. A gravitational pull seized Naruto in midair. Konan sent a spear of paper toward his throat. Naruto twisted enough for it to cut his shoulder instead. The pull dragged him faster. He used that speed rather than fighting it. A clone formed beside him, planted both feet against Naruto's back, and kicked. Naruto shot forward. The Rasengan, in his hand, struck the metal frame beside Nagato, instead of Nagato himself. The machine tipped, ruining the angle of Nagato's next technique. Naruto landed within striking distance, and deliberately held the finishing blow. He asked Nagato one last time to let it end. Nagato looked past him, toward the distant column of smoke over Konoha, and gathered chakra again. This time the force spread beyond the chamber. Naruto felt the pull reach through the broken paper tree toward the slope below, where Konoha trackers and wounded survivors were beginning to approach. Nagato no longer had the strength for another enormous Shinra Tensei, but he had enough to collapse the entire hillside and bury everyone moving through it. Konan shouted his name. Nagato forced one final black receiver from his palm and drove it toward Naruto's stomach, while pulling him forward with gravity. Naruto caught Nagato's wrist. The receiver stopped a finger from his body. Nagato's other hand moved toward Naruto's chest. Naruto's Rasengan formed between them. There was no space for either of them to dodge. Naruto drove it forward. The sphere tore through Nagato's remaining defenses and crushed into his chest. The gravitational pull died. Nagato's body sagged against the broken machine. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then his soul finally separated. The mark inside Naruto opened like an eye. A vast pressure poured into him. Naruto dropped to one knee. The energy was far greater than what he had taken from the summoned beast. Nagato's soul carried decades of discipline, monstrous chakra control, and a will hardened by years of carrying power that had nearly destroyed his body. Naruto did not receive memories, techniques, or the Rinnegan itself. What entered him was raw spiritual strength, stripped of everything that had made it Nagato's. His own chakra reacted violently. The ground beneath his hand cracked as sage chakra swirled around him, and the mark in his chest burned. For one moment, a pale figure rose behind Naruto, taller than the broken trees, with long hair and the outline of a blade between its teeth. Konan froze when she saw the Shinigami shape behind him. Naruto looked up at her, breathing hard, and left his hands open at his sides instead of attacking. Conan gathered Nagato's body in layers of paper. Her face had gone rigid with grief. Naruto could see that another fight would end badly for both of them. Conan could escape through the forest in a storm of paper. Naruto had no desire to kill someone who was carrying the body of the man he had just defeated. He let her go. She vanished with Nagato's body before Konoha trackers could arrive. Naruto returned to the village expecting relief and found rows of bodies instead. No miracle followed him home. Medics kept working on the living, while other shinobi covered the dead and carried them away from the crater. Whatever possibilities had existed while Nagato was alive had ended in the forest. Konoha had survived, but the people already lost remained dead. Sakura was near the temporary medical area when Naruto arrived. Dust covered her face. Blood had dried across both sleeves. She looked at his chest, saw the place where the receiver had gone through him, and grabbed the front of his jacket hard enough to pull him forward. Katsuyu and the surviving sensor team had reported that Naruto's chakra vanished for nearly 2 minutes. Sakura had spent those 2 minutes treating the wounded, while listening to people around her say that Naruto was gone. She had not forgiven the universe for making her hear it. Naruto tried to explain. Sakura refused to listen until she had examined him. The examination lasted long enough for Naruto to decide that being dead had been more comfortable. Sakura checked his heartbeat. Chakra coils, pupils, lungs, seal, blood pressure, and the wound in his chest. She called in 2 additional medics. When Naruto complained, she informed him that if he wanted a second comparison with death, she could arrange one. That was the first time he laughed after returning. It came out weaker than usual. Later, he found Hinata in a bed under a canvas awning. Her injuries were serious, but Sakura had stabilized her. Hinata could barely meet his eyes. She had thrown herself into the fight, knowing what pain would do to her, and Naruto had died protecting her after getting control of himself again. She blamed herself. Naruto sat beside the bed and told her that pain had thrown the weapon, and Naruto had chosen where to stand. He also remembered the words she had forced out before charging pain alone. He was not ready to turn a hospital bed into an answer to everything she had confessed. But he made sure she understood that he had heard her and had not forgotten. Hinata's hands stopped twisting the blanket after that. Naruto stayed until she fell asleep. Kakashi's body had been moved to a quiet section near the edge of the crater. Naruto found Sakura there after sunset. Neither of them had much to say. Kakashi looked almost peaceful, which irritated Naruto more than it comforted him. His teacher had always been late, always had an excuse, and somehow had managed to leave before Naruto could show him what Sage Mode could really do. Naruto sat down beside the covered body. The new power inside him felt heavier than ever. He had gained more strength in one moment from Nagato than months of ordinary training might have given him. Yet he could not use any of it to make Kakashi breathe. That fact stayed with him. The village spent the next days digging through rubble, building shelters, and counting the dead. Tsunade had fallen into a coma after exhausting herself protecting as many people as she could through Katsuyu. Shizune was gone too, and the medical corps felt her absence every hour. Fukasaku was dead, leaving Naruto with the uncomfortable knowledge that one of the teachers who had prepared him for pain had never seen him come home. Several clan leaders had lost family. The crater left by pain had erased whole neighborhoods. Naruto worked until his hands shook. His shadow clones made him more useful than any construction squad. At first, he created 20 clones, then pushed the number to 50. The spiritual density added to his chakra made each clone sturdier than before. They could carry heavier beams and stay active longer. That should have made rebuilding easier. It also made the sight of them unsettling. A faint gray haze clung to the clones whenever Naruto pushed too much chakra through them. Workers would turn around and find 5 identical Narutos carrying roof supports, while something that looked like pale smoke curled from their shoulders. Konoha rumors grew quickly. By the 4th day, Konohamaru had collected the worst of them and decided Naruto needed a new title. He announced that the village had its own dead Hokage now. Naruto chased him across 3 half-rebuilt streets. Konohamaru escaped only because Naruto refused to use Sage Mode on a child. The title unfortunately survived. Inside the seal, Kurama complained even more than the villagers. The fox hated the smell of the new chakra. He described it as something that belonged in a grave. Naruto asked why Kurama had been so quiet during the 2 minutes when Naruto was actually dead. Kurama's ears flattened. The fox said he had been enjoying the silence. Naruto laughed and pointed out that Kurama had tried to tear the seal apart the instant he came back. The fox roared loud enough to shake the water beneath the cage. Naruto stopped teasing him only because the headache followed him back into the real world. The strangest comfort came from Ichiraku. Teuchi and Ayame had rebuilt the stall as a temporary relief counter beside one of the food depots, using ration noodles and whatever ingredients still arrived with the supply caravans. When Naruto finally had enough time to sit there, the rest of Konoha was still arguing over whether he was blessed, cursed, possessed, or technically still alive. Teuchi looked at him, looked at the enormous stack of empty bowls beside him, and asked who was paying. Naruto nearly cried into his ramen. The village needed leadership. With Tsunade unconscious and Kakashi dead, the elders asked the fire daimyo for emergency authority to appoint a provisional commander. Shikaku argued for a temporary council until Tsunade's condition became clear. But the daimyo's senior military envoy arrived, demanding one person who could sign orders for borders, supplies, and foreign negotiations. At first, the envoy resisted Danzo's name. After a private meeting with Danzo, his position changed with startling speed. Sai noticed the meeting. Shikaku noticed the change. Neither had evidence of a technique, only a reason to remember it later. By the end of the day, Danzo Shimura held provisional authority over Konoha, while Tsunade remained incapacitated. Danzo moved carefully. Calling Naruto a monster outright would have failed because too many people had watched him fight pain and owed him their lives. Instead, Danzo filled council meetings with questions about what had returned from death and why sensors reported a second type of chakra inside Naruto. He also asked why an unnaturally cold pressure had appeared in the forest when Nagato died and whether the Nine Tails remained fully contained. Another question was whether a boy who grew stronger through death could safely move without supervision. The questions reached frightened people before answers did. Danzo presented himself as temporary stability. He promised food routes, patrol schedules, protection for the hospital tents, and order for the root shinobi who had remained hidden during much of the attack. That last detail angered Naruto more than the rest. He learned from Sai and several surviving shinobi that Root had received orders not to interfere while pain destroyed the village. Danzo had protected his own forces while Konoha bled. Naruto wanted to confront him immediately. Shikaku Nara stopped him. The village was still one bad decision away from tearing itself apart. Danzo controlled trained shinobi, supply records, hidden bases, and the support of both elders. Walking into his office with a Rasengan would prove every accusation Danzo was making. Naruto hated that Shikaku was right, so he waited while Danzo moved first. The first Root Squad approached Naruto at dusk, near a temporary supply depot. They wore ordinary masks and carried a written order stating that Naruto was required to submit to a medical and sealing evaluation for village security. Naruto read the paper. Then he noticed the sealing tags hidden beneath their sleeves. The squad leader reached for his arm. Naruto stepped back. The Root Shinobi attacked together. They were not trying to kill him. That made them more dangerous in a different way. Two used wire, reinforced with chakra. One scattered sealing tags across the ground. A fourth moved behind Naruto with a short blade coated in a numbing agent. Naruto made 4 clones. The first clone caught the wire and allowed itself to be wrapped. The Root Shinobi pulled hard, thinking they had trapped the real Naruto. The clones smiled and burst into smoke, blocking their sight for a fraction of a second. Naruto, second clone, came through the smoke low and swept the legs out from under the sealing specialist. The third caught the wrist of the man with the poisoned blade. The Root Shinobi tried to twist free and realized that Naruto's grip was far stronger than the reports from before Pain's invasion suggested. The man stabbed anyway. Naruto let the blade enter his sleeve, then released the clone holding him. The clone vanished, leaving the root shinobi stabbing empty smoke. The real Naruto landed behind him and struck the back of his neck with 2 fingers reinforced by chakra, dropping him immediately. The squad leader triggered the ceiling tags. Black script raced over the ground toward Naruto's feet. Naruto jumped, but the tags climbed the wall behind him and closed like a net. He formed a Rasengan and drove it into the center of the script. The rotation shredded the paper and disrupted the chakra pattern before the seal could close. The root squad froze. Naruto could have killed all 4 in seconds. The mark in his chest remained quiet. He bound them with their own wire and carried them back to the village council alive. Danzo called the incident a misunderstanding. Naruto called it exactly what it was. The elders called both of them reckless, but the legal problem was messier than Naruto wanted. Danzo's written order genuinely authorized an examination under his provisional powers. It did not authorize a permanent control seal. The captured root shinobi could not explain the difference, because the cursed seals on their tongues prevented them from giving evidence about Danzo's direct orders. Shikaku opened an investigation, but there was not yet enough to remove a provisional leader during an emergency. For the moment, the conflict ended there. Outside Konoha, weakness attracted predators. Merchants had to bring food, medicine, timber, cloth, and metal into a village with broken walls. Ordinary bandits could smell opportunity. Rogue shinobi could smell something better. The first attacks hit small caravans. The third attack burned 2 supply wagons and killed 6 guards. Naruto volunteered for escort duty before anyone could order him to remain inside the village for observation. The next caravan traveled through a narrow valley east of Konoha. Naruto used clones as scouts along both ridges. The mercenaries waited until the road narrowed between stone walls, then detonated explosive tags behind the convoy and dropped boulders in front of it. They had planned for ordinary shinobi. Naruto sent 10 clones up both cliff faces. Most of the attackers were Chunin-level rogues. The clones overwhelmed them quickly. A few tried to retreat and were knocked unconscious before they reached the forest. Their captain was different. He had once served as a jonin in a smaller hidden village and had spent years fighting dirty border wars. He used earth style to turn the valley floor into jagged stone, forcing Naruto away from the wagons, then sent a line of rock spikes beneath the civilians. Naruto saw the ground bulge. He made 4 clones directly on the road. They drove Rasengans into the earth at different points, breaking the spikes before they could reach the surface. The captain had expected Naruto to defend. He attacked during the distraction. A stone blade cut across Naruto's side. Naruto countered with a punch that sent the man skidding several meters. The captain stared because he had heard that Naruto beat Pain with Sage Mode. He had not expected Naruto's ordinary body to hit like that. Naruto had felt the difference since Nagato's death too. His muscles were the same. His technique was still his own. Yet every movement carried chakra that seemed to grip the world harder. The captain changed tactics. He created 3 earth walls and vanished between them. Naruto sent 2 clones to keep the caravan moving, then dropped behind an overturned wagon and held still for several breaths while the escorts covered him. Natural energy settled into place. When he rose in Sage Mode, he could feel the captain shifting beneath the valley floor. The attack came from beneath. Naruto jumped as a stone spear shot up where his heart had been. The choice of target made his chest ache with the memory of Pain's receiver. Naruto landed on the spear and ran down its length. One clone hit the nearest wall with a sage-enhanced punch, while another drove a Rasengan into its base. The stone barrier split outward instead of exploding toward the wagons, and the captain was forced into the open. He avoided the falling rock, but the delay let Naruto close the distance and crush his weapon arm with a kick. Naruto closed the distance. The captain's eyes shifted toward the wagons. He formed a final hand sign. Naruto sensed chakra gathering beneath the civilians again. There was no time to disable him carefully. Naruto drove a Rasengan into his chest. The man died before he hit the ground. Spiritual strength flowed into Naruto. It was much smaller than Nagato's. Still, the effect was immediate enough for nearby shinobi to feel the air change. A gray outline formed behind Naruto for a second. One of the merchants dropped a crate. Another made a religious hand sign. By the time the caravan reached Konoha, everyone in the village had heard that Naruto became stronger when enemies died around him. Danzo no longer needed to ask people to be afraid. Fear had found its own story. He called a council meeting. Naruto was not allowed inside. Shikaku later told him what had happened. Danzo argued that the ability created an obvious moral hazard. A shinobi who gained power from killing would eventually be tempted to kill more often. The Nine Tails already made Naruto a strategic weapon. The Shinigami mark made him an unknown one. Danzo proposed placing Naruto under root supervision until Tsunade woke. The elders agreed to temporary restrictions. At the same meeting, Shikaku received notice that Kumagakure had sent an official delegation concerning Sasuke Uchiha's attack on Killer Bee. The envoys were still days away, but the message made Konoha's leadership crisis harder to ignore. Danzo used that pressure immediately. Naruto was ordered to remain inside Konoha unless directly assigned to a mission. He nearly tore the order in half. Then he remembered Kakashi's covered body and the root squad he had left alive. If he lost his temper now, Danzo would win without throwing a punch. Naruto stayed inside Konoha for 6 days and helped rebuild instead. He carried beams, cleared rubble, repaired drainage channels, and moved supplies. The work gave him something simple to focus on. It also produced more stories about the ghostly clone army. One afternoon, Konohamaru climbed onto a stack of timber and loudly asked whether Naruto's army of the dead received lunch breaks. Naruto threw a wet rag at him. The rag missed and hit Ebisu. That story spread even faster than the others. The humor helped, but pressure kept building. A second root squad came during the night. This one did not carry an official order. Their mission was to place a suppression seal on Naruto while he slept. Sai noticed them first. He had once lived under Danzo's control and knew the hand signals Root used when entering a target area. He found Naruto before the squad reached the temporary apartment. Naruto moved the confrontation away from the civilian tents. The Root shinobi followed him into the remains of an old training ground. This squad was stronger. Their leader carried a cursed seal formula designed to lock a target's chakra once enough marks were placed on the body. 2 others used smoke bombs filled with powdered sedative. The last specialized in Earth-style barriers. Naruto fought defensively. He used clones to trigger the barrier traps. He sent wind chakra through the smoke to clear breathing space. When the leader landed the first seal mark on his shoulder, Naruto felt his left arm go heavy. A second mark touched his back. His chakra flow stumbled. The Root squad rushed him. Naruto dropped to one knee. The leader moved in to place the final mark over his heart. Naruto released every clone on the field at once. Their accumulated experience returned to him. He had used the clones to study the seal from 4 angles. The marks were connected by a simple directional flow. Naruto drove 2 fingers into the first mark and pushed a burst of dense chakra backward through it. The seal network overloaded. The leader's own formula flashed up his arm and burned through his sleeve. He knocked 2 Root shinobi unconscious in seconds. The Earth user tried to trap him under a collapsing stone dome. Naruto broke through the side with a Rasengan before it closed. The leader retreated toward the civilian district and cut through a supply lane beside the temporary hospital. He tore 3 explosive tags from his belt and threw them toward the supports of a water tower and the canvas medicine store. He was trying to create enough chaos to disappear, and he was willing to accept whoever the collapsing timber and fire might hit. Naruto's clone intercepted 2 tags. The third passed through the smoke. Naruto reached it first, caught it, turned, and threw it high enough to explode harmlessly above the tents. The Root leader was already behind him with a short blade. Naruto twisted. The blade cut his ribs. The leader formed another seal with his free hand. Black script crawled from the weapon into Naruto's body. Naruto slammed his forehead into the man's face. The seal broke before it completed. The leader stumbled backward and reached for a second trigger strip, already linked to tags hidden beneath the evacuation path. Naruto saw the marked cord running under the boards and the medic still moving across it. There was no time to break the network one seal at a time. The leader's thumb was already closing on the trigger. Naruto made the decision before the man could move. A compact Rasengan struck the root leader directly through the chest. The man fell, and the mark took his spiritual strength. The surviving root shinobi saw it happen. They also saw Naruto turn away from them afterward. He had 3 enemies on the ground, 2 still conscious, and both expected him to finish them. Instead, Naruto bound their hands and waited for Shikaku's investigators. One of them asked why Naruto was leaving them alive. Naruto's answer was the only thing he said during the entire fight. Because I decide. A root lookout posted beyond the training ground had already fled through an old drainage tunnel before Sai could close the perimeter. The report reached Danzo before sunrise. It frightened him more than any threat could have. Naruto had a power that rewarded death, and he had chosen restraint under pressure. Danzo could not paint him as a mindless danger much longer. Every failed attempt at control made Naruto look more reasonable and Danzo more desperate. Tsunade remained unconscious, although Sakura reported that her chakra and breathing were finally stabilizing. Danzo understood what that meant. His provisional authority might last days instead of weeks, and the Kumogakure delegation was approaching at the same time. Danzo decided he no longer had time. He issued a sealed summons, ordering Naruto to report to a secure root facility for a final evaluation, authorized by the provisional leadership. Shikaku told Naruto the summons was a trap. Sai agreed, and for once, Naruto did not respond by walking into it alone. They spent an hour turning Danzo's invitation into their own operation. A shadow clone followed the route first and confirmed the location of the underground facility before dispersing. Shikaku placed a team near the known exits. Sai prepared ink birds to watch the ventilation shafts and drainage tunnels. Before descending, Naruto sat still long enough to enter Sage Mode. Naruto then left 2 additional clones above ground, gathering natural energy on timed releases, so he could refresh it inside, even if the barrier cut communication. If Naruto failed to send a signal within the agreed window, Shikaku would treat the meeting as an unlawful detention and force entry. Naruto still had to go in person. Danzo would recognize a clone the moment sealing contact was attempted, and refusing the summons would let him keep sending root into civilian streets under color of provisional authority. Naruto wanted the confrontation contained underground, but this time he was not trusting Danzo to contain it for him. With the plan set, Naruto followed the summons below Konoha. The root base beneath Konoha had survived Pain's attack because it had been built to survive almost anything. Naruto descended through narrow stone corridors lined with seals. He passed empty training rooms, weapon stores, and rows of masks hanging from pegs. Danzo waited in a circular chamber deep below the village. He carried his cane in one hand. His right arm remained wrapped. One eye was covered. A barrier closed behind Naruto. Danzo explained his position calmly. Konoha was wounded. Other villages would test its borders. Akatsuki still existed, and Sasuke Uchiha was moving somewhere outside the village. The 9 Tails could not be left in the hands of a boy whose power had become tied to killing. Danzo intended to place a permanent control seal on Naruto. Naruto asked whether Root had been ordered to stay hidden while Pain killed villagers. Danzo did not deny it. He considered the survival of Root more important than sacrificing valuable forces in a battle he expected Tsunade to lose. Naruto's hands curled as he imagined Kakashi beneath the white cloth. Danzo mistook the silence for hesitation. He activated the barrier. Sealing script appeared across the floor. Naruto jumped before the first line reached him. Danzo moved faster than his age suggested. Wind chakra sharpened around a kunai. He cut across Naruto's path and forced him toward a marked wall. Naruto created 6 clones. Danzo exhaled a compressed wind blade that sliced through two and opened a deep cut across the shoulder of a third. The remaining clones attacked from different heights. Danzo stepped through them with brutal efficiency. He did not try to match Naruto's strength. He attacked hands, knees, and throats. He used the environment. The barrier walls redirected movement and narrowed Naruto's angles. Naruto landed one clean punch. Danzo flew across the chamber and struck the wall hard enough to crack stone. He rose almost immediately. That told Naruto everything he needed to know about the fight. In raw power, Danzo could not stay with him anymore. The danger came from everything else. Danzo unwrapped his right arm. Naruto saw the Sharingan embedded in the flesh. The sight of stolen Sharingan embedded in a living arm made his stomach turn. Danzo formed hand signs, and wind pressure sharpened through the chamber. Naruto had gathered natural energy before descending and entered the chamber with Sage Mode already active. A few minutes remained before the first reserve clone above ground was scheduled to disperse and return its natural energy to him. Danzo's next blade came from the side. Naruto slipped past it and drove an elbow into Danzo's ribs hard enough to crack bone. Danzo answered by touching two fingers to Naruto's forearm, and a seal began to spread from the contact point. Naruto tore away before the formula closed and sent a shadow clone around Danzo's blind side. Danzo buried a wind-coated kunai in the clone's throat. Smoke covered the gap for an instant. The real Naruto came through it with a Rasengan and struck Danzo in the chest hard enough to crater the floor. Danzo's body stopped moving. The Shinigami mark remained silent. Naruto did not have time to wonder why. Danzo appeared several steps away, with no wound on his chest, and drove a vacuum bullet through the space Naruto had occupied a heartbeat earlier. The corpse on the floor faded like an error being erased from the world. Naruto looked at the Sharingan in Danzo's arm and noticed that none had closed yet. He attacked again, with that detail fixed in his mind. A clone forced Danzo toward a ceiling line, while Naruto came from above with a Sage-enhanced kick. Danzo chose to take the blow rather than step onto his own formula. His skull struck the stone floor at an angle that should have killed him. The mark remained quiet. A moment later, Danzo was standing near the far wall again. When no eye closed after the second false death, Naruto changed his assumption. The technique was not spending one eye every time Danzo escaped death, which meant some other resource was being consumed. He ordered 3 clones to stop trying to finish Danzo and start watching him. 1 tracked the eyes and the arm. 1 mapped every ceiling line on the floor while forcing Danzo to move across the chamber. Danzo understood that Naruto was studying him and tightened the battlefield. Black script climbed the walls, dividing the circular room into narrower lanes. Vacuum bullets ricocheted through those lanes and forced Naruto away from safe footing. Danzo did not need to overpower him. He only needed enough contact to build the control formula already marked into the room. Naruto destroyed one section of the floor with a Rasengan to interrupt the script. Danzo used the opening to put a wind blade through Naruto's side. Naruto answered with a point-blank punch that shattered Danzo's sternum. The death vanished again. A moment later, when Naruto's counting clone reached roughly a minute, one Sharingan on Danzo's arm closed. The eye had paid for a span of time in which Danzo could rewrite fatal results as if they had never happened, not for a single death. That made the technique more dangerous than Naruto first thought. Killing Danzo repeatedly inside the same interval accomplished nothing except giving the old man chances to touch him. Naruto changed tactics, turning the next minute into a chase, instead of repeatedly giving Danzo chances to use false deaths as openings. Naruto flooded the chamber with clones and kept Danzo under constant threat from different angles. He needed Danzo to believe a lethal hit could come at any moment, because that forced him to keep the reality rewriting technique active. Danzo tried to disengage and cancel it. Naruto's clones immediately compressed the space around him. One attacked high with a fainting Rasengan. Another rolled beneath a wind blade and kicked Danzo toward the marked center of the room. A third broke the wall behind him so there would be no safe corner to retreat into. Danzo answered by allowing a clone to get close. He took the Rasengan through his shoulder and used the false injury to plant a control mark on the clone's chest before the body was erased. The experience returned to Naruto with the clone's smoke. Naruto understood the trick a moment before Danzo tried it on the real body. Another eye closed. When the next interval expired, Danzo became more aggressive. Every false life was now a weapon. He let a clone appear to break his neck, so he could reappear behind Naruto and place a seal on his shoulder. He accepted a fatal kick to the ribs to get a second mark onto Naruto's thigh, before reality corrected the damage. The marks began to interfere with Naruto's chakra flow. At the same time, the first reserve clone above ground reached its timed limit and dispersed. Natural energy and the clone's last moments of concentration returned to Naruto. Sage mode steadied instead of fading. Danzo's expression changed. He had expected Naruto's greatest combat state to expire before the Sharingan on his arm did. Naruto used the new reserve carefully. He stopped making large attacks and started attacking the room. A Sage-powered strike broke one control channel in the floor. A Rasengan destroyed a second. Clones forced Danzo away from the central seal plate each time he tried to repair the network. 2 more timed intervals passed. 2 more Sharingan closed. Danzo finally abandoned the idea of wearing Naruto down cleanly. He opened the barrier's inner channels and flooded the chamber with sealing pressure. The remaining black lines bent toward Naruto from every wall. For a few seconds, the room itself became the weapon. Naruto's left leg locked, a mark on his shoulder connected to one on the floor. Then his right arm went heavy. Danzo rushed in with a wind-coated kunai and drove it toward Naruto's throat. Naruto made a shadow clone with the little free chakra he could still control. The clone appeared flat on the floor, grabbed Danzo's ankle, and pulled. Naruto forced dense chakra through the mark on his shoulder until the script cracked just enough for his right hand to move. His fist met Danzo's face. Danzo's neck snapped against the stone. The false death vanished a moment later, but the interruption broke the strongest link in the control network. Naruto tore himself free before Danzo could rebuild it. Another Sharingan closed. Danzo's breathing had become ragged. Naruto's had too. He was stronger, but the fight had turned into a contest of resources. Danzo was spending stolen eyes to keep reality on his side. Naruto was spending chakra, natural energy, and clones to keep those eyes burning. Danzo reached for the bandages over his covered eye, then stopped. The strongest technique hidden there was still unavailable. During the emergency appointment after Pain's attack, Danzo had used Shisui Uchiha's eye on the Fire Daimyo's military envoy. The envoy's sudden reversal after their private meeting had not been politics at all. The stolen eye still had not recovered enough for Danzo to use that technique again. Naruto did not know every detail, but he saw Danzo abandon the eye and understood that whatever was hidden there could not save him immediately. The next interval was the ugliest. Danzo used vacuum blades to cut apart clones faster than Naruto could replace them. He then tried to retreat toward a side corridor where secondary barriers could separate them. Naruto refused to let him escape the pressure. 2 clones came through the ceiling after breaking a ventilation shaft from inside. Another slid under a wind blast and hooked Danzo's knee. The real Naruto stayed outside, touching distance. He used small Rasengans to deny every route that would let Danzo safely release his technique. 2 more intervals ended, closing 2 more eyes. By the time only 1 Sharingan remained open on Danzo's arm, the chamber looked as though a demolition crew had fought a storm inside it. Half the ceiling channels were broken. Dust filled the air. Naruto's jacket was torn at the shoulder and ribs. Danzo's cane was gone, and blood ran from his mouth whenever the rewriting technique was not hiding an injury. Danzo activated the final interval before Naruto could force him into it. The last Sharingan stayed open, while reality around him became unreliable. One more time, Naruto changed targets and attacked Danzo's options instead of his body. 4 clones spread across the chamber and kept him moving. 1 destroyed the side corridor. 1 blocked the route to the archive level. 2 rotated attacks from opposite directions, never committing long enough for Danzo to turn a false death into another seal on the real Naruto. Danzo tried to cancel Izanagi and save the remaining seconds. The moment his chakra shifted, Naruto rushed him with a Rasengan. Danzo was forced to maintain the technique and let the lethal possibility remain unreal. The counting clone reached the end of the interval. The last Sharingan closed. For the first time since Danzo had unwrapped his arm, every injury in the room became permanent. His eyes moved toward the central seal plate beneath the broken floor. Danzo slammed his palm onto it and activated the facility's deepest control array. Black script erupted from the stone and caught Naruto at both ankles, one wrist, and across the chest. This was not a mobile field like the earlier marks. It was the master seal built into the root chamber itself, designed to hold a Jinchuriki long enough for a permanent command formula to be placed directly over the heart. Naruto pulled. The floor cracked around his feet, but the seal did not release. He forced chakra through one line and felt it begin to split. He could break it with time. Danzo was already crossing the room. A command mark burned across his palm. If it reached Naruto's chest, Danzo would not need to win another fight. He would own the Nine Tails Jinchuriki while Konoha was still leaderless. Naruto tried to form a clone. The Master Seal crushed the chakra pattern before it stabilized. He forced his right hand free by tearing skin from his wrist against the script. Danzo was one step away. Naruto had enough movement for one technique. A Rasengan formed in his palm. Danzo did not stop. His marked hand reached for Naruto's chest. Naruto drove the Rasengan forward. The impact crushed through Danzo's ribs and stopped his heart before the control mark could touch Naruto. The immediate reaction of the Shinigami mark confirmed that this death was real. Spiritual force tore through the chamber. At the same time, black ink spilled across Danzo's exposed chest and abdomen. Naruto saw the formula only after the old man's heart had already stopped. Chakra compressed violently around the corpse. The Master Control Seal holding Naruto weakened when Danzo died. Naruto ripped one leg free, tore the remaining line from his wrist, and moved the instant his sage senses registered the expanding pressure. He threw himself through a broken section of wall. As the reverse 4-symbol seal opened behind him, a black sphere swallowed Danzo's body, part of the chamber and the central control plate. Stone, weapons, and sealing script vanished into the collapsing field. The edge caught the back of Naruto's jacket and ripped away a strip of cloth before he cleared the radius and crashed into the corridor. Only then did Danzo's spiritual strength finish entering the mark. It was only a fraction of the soul itself. It carried the weight of a shinobi who had survived wars, mastered forbidden techniques, and spent decades sharpening his will into something hard and ugly. The stone beneath Naruto's hands cracked as he pushed himself up. A pale shape rose behind him. The Shinigami's outline filled the ruined corridor, its hair floating in air that had gone cold, the suggestion of a blade resting between its teeth. 2 root observers stationed beyond the barrier had been tracking the duel through the facility's chakra monitors. One froze at the sight. The other fled into an emergency tunnel before Shikaku's perimeter teams sealed every exit. Naruto stayed on one knee until the pressure settled. He had killed Danzo because the permanent command seal had left him one usable hand and 1 second to stop it. The spiritual reward came afterward. It had not made the decision for him. Then the damaged barrier failed completely. Shikaku's team entered the base minutes later. The timed plan and the shattered barrier had told them the meeting was over. Sai's Inkbirds had already marked 2 emergency exits. They found Naruto wounded near the destroyed central chamber. Danzo's body was gone inside his own sealing technique, but the ruined arm, blood, the failed control array, and surviving root personnel left little doubt about what had happened. The evidence did not appear conveniently at Naruto's feet. Securing it took the rest of the night. Sai led investigators through administrative levels, while Shikaku placed surrendered root members under guard. Locked archives contained orders proving that Danzo had withheld root during Pain's attack, and plans for Naruto's forced sealing. They also contained reports on the Uchiha massacre that Danzo had never intended the rest of the village to see. The investigation also found the record of Danzo's private meeting with the Fire Daimyo's envoy and medical notes on the recent use of Shisui's eye. Danzo's death did not solve Konoha's political crisis overnight, but the evidence forced it onto a different path. The elders could no longer dismiss his actions as rumors. Root lost its unified command. Some members surrendered, others fled into hidden tunnels. A few remained and submitted to temporary oversight because they had nowhere else to go. Naruto let the investigators deal with the fugitives instead of abandoning the village to chase them through underground tunnels. For 3 more days, Shikaku and the elders ran Konoha under emergency oversight while the investigation continued. Tsunade, whose condition had already begun improving before the battle with Danzo, woke on the 3rd morning. She looked older than she had before Pain's attack. Naruto expected a furious lecture for entering a root base and killing a provisional leader. Tsunade gave him one that lasted long enough for Sakura to step outside the tent because she was trying not to laugh. Then, Tsunade read the files. She stopped when she reached Shizune's final medical reports and the orders showing how much manpower Danzo had kept underground while the hospital sector collapsed. Her fingers tightened around the pages until the paper bent, and the lecture about Naruto gave way to a colder discussion of what Danzo had done with provisional authority. Danzo's death remained a serious act. Naruto had crossed a line that could not simply be erased because Danzo was guilty. Yet, the evidence showed that Danzo had created the confrontation, authorized illegal attempts to control the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, and endangered civilians in the process. By the end of Tsunade's first day awake, Kumogakure's delegation reached Konoha with a formal complaint over Sasuke's attack on Killer Bee. Tsunade refused to let the village stumble directly from one crisis into another. She accepted the documents, promised an official response, and kept the matter from becoming an immediate march toward another war. Tsunade resumed command in stages after the medical corps cleared her, while Shikaku continued handling the investigation and sent a full report to the Fire Daimyo. Konoha had too many graves to celebrate anything, so Naruto returned to rebuilding. The village treated him differently now. A carpenter bowed to him one morning. A nervous mother pulled her child closer when his gray aura flickered, and an old mason simply handed Naruto the other end of a timber beam and asked for help. One old shopkeeper left a bowl of rice and 2 oranges outside Naruto's temporary room because she had heard that offerings kept death spirits peaceful. Naruto ate the oranges and returned the bowl. Konohamaru heard about it and told everyone the dead Hokage accepted tribute. Naruto chased him again. Kurama watched from behind the seal and called both of them idiots. Naruto later visited Kakashi's grave alone. He brought one of the cheap orange paperbacks Kakashi had always carried and placed it beside the stone. Near the memorial, he also left a small carved toad charm one of the workers had made from scrap wood for Fukasaku. Neither offering could repay a teacher. That was not the point. Kakashi would have appreciated the ridiculous book more than a speech, and Fukasaku would probably have complained that the toad's face was wrong. Naruto stayed there until the evening wind started lifting dust from the path. The new strength inside him had settled. The first summoned beast had left only a trace inside the mark. Nagato, the mercenary captain, the root commander, and Danzo had left far more. Naruto could feel the accumulated pressure whenever he shaped chakra, but no voices or stolen memories followed it. The strength had become part of his own chakra, and nothing more. He understood the rule better than he had on the day he returned. A real death caused by his chakra could make him stronger, but the reward arrived after the choice. It could not choose for him. When he returned to Ichiraku, Teuchi had already prepared extra noodles. Naruto sat down and ate until the ache in his chest loosened. For one evening, the biggest argument in his life was whether his new condition qualified him for a resurrection discount. Teuchi refused the resurrection discount. Naruto accused him of being heartless, and Ayame laughed until she had to put down the ladle. Far from Konoha, Another consequence of Danzo's death reached someone who had already been moving toward the land of fire. Kumogakure was looking for Sasuke after the attack on Killer Bee, and the pressure around Team Taka had been increasing. Danzo had still been Sasuke's reason for approaching Konoha. Then, a new report changed that reason. Sasuke Uchiha stood on a rocky ridge with Team Taka scattered behind him. The message had come through one of the underworld contacts Karen used to track movements around the great villages. The source was a root operative who had escaped the underground perimeter after monitoring Danzo's final duel through the base's chakra system. Danzo Shimura was dead. Sasuke read the report twice. His hand tightened around the page. Since learning the truth about Itachi and the Uchiha massacre, Danzo had been one of the names at the center of Sasuke's revenge. Sasuke had built his next steps around reaching the man, forcing the truth out of him, and deciding the killing blow himself. Naruto Uzumaki had reached Danzo first. The report included one more detail. Witnesses claimed that Danzo had died several times during the battle, yet only his final death caused the enormous white shape to appear behind Naruto. Sasuke folded the paper. He remembered Naruto as the loud boy who chased him through the Valley of the End. That memory no longer matched the information in his hand. A figure in an orange mask watched from farther down the ridge. Obito already knew more because Zetsu's scouts had been following the aftermath of Pain's attack. They had confirmed Nagato's death, Konan's escape with the body and Rinnegan, Naruto's return after being killed, and Danzo's fall before Sasuke could reach him. Every plan around the Nine Tails, the Rinnegan, and Sasuke now had to change. For Obito, the disruption created new leverage. Sasuke turned toward the road leading to the Land of Fire. His reason for going to Konoha had changed. Danzo could no longer answer questions about the massacre, and Naruto had been present when the root archives were seized. To Sasuke, that meant the village now possessed information Danzo had intended to bury. While Naruto had taken the revenge Sasuke believed belonged to him, Danzo was no longer waiting in Konoha. The truth Sasuke wanted might be, and Naruto stood between him and whatever the village chose to do with it. And this time, Sasuke intended to find out exactly what had come back from the dead.